You're watching Public Comment every Thursdays at 8 a.m. The live stream. Detroit is different and Bridge Detroit. Local politics of Detroit. All right. Welcome back to Public Comment. And this is Thursday, June 6th. And you're working in the morning for like an update on municipal politics. Khary Frazier here of Detroit is Different with Bridge Detroit's own Malachi. Malachi Barrett, how are you today?
Good morning. I'm doing good, man. It's good to see you again. I was on Meagan Island last week. I missed you.
Yeah, man. We were not in effect because he was over in Mackinac, and I don't know what I was doing bopping around. And we actually record this on Wednesdays if people ever wanted to know or whatever. But we're gonna work all this stuff out. So just for a quick Mackinac update, anything that just popped out that we want to talk about?
Not really. I mean, it's a weird event. The policy conference every year put on by the Detroit Regional Chamber. Not really a Detroit focused event. It's very statewide. A lot of business groups and nonprofits go.
Yeah.
A lot of kind of political hobnobbing. A lot of questions about who's going to run for mayor in Detroit. A lot of questions about who's going to run for governor of Michigan. But not a super newsy event. I mean, we got some coverage up on the website. A couple of little nuggets. Eastern Market folks are concerned about the I-375 project. Mayor Duggan endorsed Mary Waters, which I think we're going to talk about more at a later date in her race against Sri Tanadar.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that's been going on for the longest of time, where different things happen in reference to the city. So as we jump into this is a story that was brought up towards the end of last year and also in the beginning of this year. And we're talking about the mural project, and how it seems as though some murals were placed downtown preparing for the draft, one would assume, and it did not go through the usual process of bidding, being paid out, but the city has paid a lot of artists. Some of those artists are feeling underpaid for these mural projects, and it did not go from city council, meaning that like the usual process for any purse strings in the city comes through city council. This is a part of the legislative duties. So this is Khary giving a civics 101 lesson that for everyone that's thinking about running for city council, there are two major things you need to focus on. That's the spending and budgets and ordinances. And also you need to focus on what's going to happen with the city budget every year. And this mural project superseded it. And these murals definitely have some hot water, as you say, for the good brother that leads this, Antoine Bryant. The Board of Ethics has moved forward with an investigation. Malachi, let's break it down.
Yeah, so this is something we've been following for a couple of months now. You guys have probably noticed some of the downtown murals that were installed last fall in anticipation of the NFL draft. They were meant to promote the draft. This New York nonprofit, Street Art for Mankind, came to the city. They said, hey, we worked well with you in the past. They actually put a mural up on the Frank Murphy Hall of Justice downtown. They were like, hey, we want to bring some international artists in and put some murals across the city. Can you help us pay for, some of the costs? What we found through, and long story short, at the time that all of this kind of first came into the news, a lot of local artists were upset that they didn't get an opportunity to participate in this. We have a huge, thriving mural scene and art scene in Detroit, and a lot of local muralists want to make sure they're being paid when these jobs are being created, especially when there's city general fund like tax dollars going toward it. But the city council rejected the contract, decided not to pay Street Art for Mankind for putting up these murals because the work was completed before council could actually authorize the contract itself, which is, not how it goes. As Khary was saying, anything over $25,000, city council has to approve the contract before the work can start. This was a $215,000 contract, and the murals were painted before anybody gave permission. We found out that the planning department director, Antoine Bryant, had executed the contract on his own. He says that the mural company, for some reason, decided to start working before getting approval. And so, the murals were already up on the wall, and he decided to then execute the contract. And then a few months later, it went to city council, and they were like, this whole thing has been backwards and not followed the correct process, so we're not going to approve it, which opened the city to a lawsuit potentially. It's been a few months, and it doesn't look like Street Art for Mankind is interested in suing the city. Of course, that could be, that could change. Maybe they're talking with their lawyers. We don't really know. It sounds like there's not an ongoing effort to get that money back. But we had, lingering concerns, lingering questions about how this happened. So we put in a Freedom of Information request. Through the FOIA process, you can get public records. It takes a long time here at the city. It took about 5 months, I think, to get our documents back. We asked for emails and contract invoices and things like that. And basically what we found was, and you should really read these stories online because it's a pretty detailed situation. But basically things were moving too fast, and Street Art for Mankind was very eager to get these murals up on the wall, didn't seem to understand the city's processes. And Antoine Bryant kind of took it upon himself to give the okay and sign off on these contracts. So this week, the same day, actually, we published our first story in collaboration with Outlier Media. And thanks to Aaron Mondry over at Outlier for helping us piece a lot of this together. The Board of Ethics decided to open an investigation into Bryant, and they are looking into potential, abuse of his position. They have a number of different ethics violations that they are investigating. We're going to see where this goes. It's going to take a couple of weeks. There will probably be a hearing. The city is behind Antoine. They said that the law department will be representing him, and the hearing, is kind of like a legal process. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of try. The Board of Ethics gathers its evidence if they feel like there's a violation. How they try to prove that in a court-like setting, and what kinds of consequences come from this. Because a major question we had, this whole situation, Bryant seemingly violated the city charter and illegally approved these contracts. He definitely took his lumps in public. He got he took responsibility at the city council and got beat up a little bit at council. He got beat up a little bit publicly for it. But
Yeah.
there didn't really seem to be a lot of other consequences that came with that. So this ethics investigation, could result in something a little bit more serious. But I talked to Chief Operating Officer Brad Dick when I was on Meagan Island, and he was kind of like, we're moving on from this. It was a mistake, but with good intentions. We were just trying to put art up on the city, in the downtown, and people had good intentions. Basically.
You know what they say about ignorance in the law. It ain't a defense. And just a little bit of this, kind of me going through some of what the procurement process would have been for a project I worked on. And it's a lot more steps than that. Actually, anything above $2,000. So $1,099.99 and above has to go before council. And for people to get an idea of how this procurement process works for artists, me being an artist with my firm and everything, the first thing is you need to be a vendor inside the Oracle system of the city of Detroit. That's step one. After you are a vendor in the Oracle system with the city of Detroit, the next thing is that a contract needs to be put up for bid and have time enough for those contracts to bid. For a contract to go to bid, that needs to be drafted up. And this is like a lot of things like in the procurement process. After the contract is drafted up, and then people, the RFP is placed, you submit to the RFP. Then after the RFP is placed, then it goes over to the legislative division, I believe. That legislative division then drafts it so that it can be listed and spent over to council, so council can at least go before the whole body, and then from the whole body, from there, then it goes into whatever subcommittee will like take it. So like something like murals and art may go to like something like public spaces and public works or something. And then after that's explored, from there, the procurement process lands on going back to the whole body. Then it's voted on. Then after that, 7 days to retract whatever that vote, if it was approved and whoever that vendor was, then the work can begin. You still have to submit and pay after usually like a 45 days. A rush process would be 30 days. But this is why, like a lot of smaller businesses like mine, is like usually working with the city is tough. So a project I did work on the city, I just withdrew because of the whole process. And I was just, it's a lot of steps to getting paid from the city. So I could easily understand like a group of like eager artists. With that being said, those eager artists are working with some type of um, system to know some type of organizational structure or management company that needs to know, like, all right, we're not going to really start working like this and traveling and everything until things can begin. This is also the project that shout out to Halima Afi Cassels and also Sydney James was saying, like, yo, what's up with all these murals from people from outside the city? I don't know if you remember that story from last year.
Yeah. And well, another piece that's kind of come out of this as well is they are now pushing to create an artists commission, which in the city charter, there's supposed to be a council of the arts that would basically outline some good processes around hiring local artists for mural projects like this. So this has been kind of an opportunity for the art community to really rally around, creating that and actually getting that codified. It's in the early stages. The city said that is moving forward. Could have maybe prevented a situation like this. It's not really clear, but
and I do want to keep uplifting, like with the Renters Commission, and you mentioned Mary Waters. A commission, different than a task force, actually has executive action. It can execute things. It can have access to capital that a task force can't. I want to clearly continue to uplift that in the structure of how the charter of the city of Detroit functions. So artist commission would be powerful. One of the key art committees like that is the DIA board, which the DIA and the city of Detroit and dealing with Black people and dealing with art is so tough, even though I do want to see that Tiffany Massey exhibit like that's up there now. Shout out to Detroit. But, it's fine art in Black cities taking advantage of Black resources. It's a interesting story that goes back as old as time in cities like the city of Detroit. Even when you look at the bankruptcy, one of the most protected things, even more so than people's pensions, people's homes, people's infrastructure of the city, was this art that had such interest from people in Metro Detroit and not Detroit itself. So that's interrelated to this story because it all deals with art and who's moving forward with art and how art can get an agenda more so than people, specifically people in the city like the city of Detroit.
Yeah, we've written a few times about how mural art, which has a direct connection to graffiti art and has a lot of inspirations from street art and graffiti, has now become like a very trendy thing, right? Like it's put on new development projects. It's used to promote neighborhoods and public spaces. And I think the question a lot of artists have is, can we benefit from that? It's something we talk about on the show all the time. There's new energy going into this thing. Are the people that really made it popular going to be able to reap the rewards of that? I want to talk a little bit about that art council because I looked up the charter. So bear with me here. It would act as an advisory body to the mayor and the city council as an advocate for the arts and aesthetics in all aspects of city life. So it looks like it would go kind of beyond public street art and maybe include like statues and other kinds of cultural institutions, groups interested in cultural activities. It would encourage and support a wide variety of programs which reflect the cultural needs and experiences of all citizens and encourage participation in the cultural activities carried on by the city. So I don't know how much power that would really have, but as an advisory board, well, it's a council. So
I know that's why I support the commission idea. We need commissions.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like you're right. There's a big distinction there between the ability of commissions. So yeah, I mean, Halima and Sydney have been working to create guidelines for pay rates, which was kind of another issue
Yeah.
with this. Not to really get in the weeds too much, but I was told that you can't really just divide that $215,000 by 6 number of murals and say like that's how much the artists were paid, because we were really sharing costs for this project with Street Art for Mankind. But that's another issue. Artists want to get paid a fair wage, which I think a lot of people can get behind. And then they also want to create an artist selection process for art commissioned by the city. It's not really clear to me what that process is right now, but City Walls basically goes out and finds sites that were, I think normally it's like sites that were covered by graffiti, and they clean that site up and then paint over it. So those come out in like big batches of projects, like twice a year or something like that. Yeah, artists want the work, man.
Yeah, and I mean, shout out to Sydney. Sydney's actually doing some art in Boston right now. She'll be coming on Detroit is Different soon. But
a lot of these people are nationally, internationally known. I mean, it's Detroit is on the map for mural art.
Yeah. So with that, the next story is another one of the gems of the city of Detroit, Belle Isle. And Meagan Elliot was honored with the Spirit of Detroit Award for her work in bringing a lot of improvements to Belle Isle and the Belle Isle Conservancy. And she's actually stepping into the role as the CEO of Belle Isle Conservancy. And this was another story that I just really wanted to always highlight because, that's a 30-year lease. That's a 30-year lease. All right. So soon that 30-year lease will be up from state back to city control. And we need to be cognizant of some of the things that have changed, what we would like to see moving forward. But within it, we know that Belle Isle is one of the true gems. I think it's one of the number one places that Detroit is known for all Detroiters, and one of the most beautiful places and spaces that I think you're going to find in America itself. So caring for it, keeping it up, that's something we're always going to applaud. Anything you want to add to the rock?
Yeah, just that there's a lot of Spirit of Detroit awards that come through. I don't always cover all of them, but I thought this was notable. Because Meagan Elliot has been so involved in parks in the city, and she actually put together the first post-bankruptcy strategic parks plan that was updated in 2022. It's available out there online. I think, as somebody who is not originally from Detroit and kind of came here after that wave of investment, that Detroit's parks really impressed me when I moved here, especially compared to a lot of other cities in Michigan that I've lived in. But there's also a long way to go in terms of making that access better for people, that every neighborhood has like a park that has good amenities. And I think it's really important for people's quality of life. I also think it's interesting because Elliot was involved in the ARPA money distribution. We've seen a lot of that go into recreation spaces, recreation centers, parks, greenways, trails, those kinds of things. So now her moving to the Belle Isle Conservancy will kind of continue a lot of that strategic planning for an amenity that I think a lot of people have interest in. That 30-year lease is up in 2043, which we'll still be here. We might be a little grayer, but it's on the horizon, right? It's something that we can kind of look forward to, and I'm really curious to see what happens after that. I'm looking at the lease agreement right now, and whose name is on it, but the emergency manager of the city of Detroit at the time, Kevin Orr, in 2013. So again, this whole situation of the park going into the state's hands is really fresh in people's minds as a result of the state kind of takeover. And has it been for better or for worse? I think there's a lot of different opinions on that, but certainly we've seen a lot of money being flowed into Belle Isle from the state and the federal government through ARPA. A lot of changes have happened and are going to continue to happen. We reported recently that the Belle Isle Zoo is going to be demolished, and they're going to return that to nature trails.
I was just about to bring up the zoo, as that connects to another friend of Detroit is Different, Angela Lugo Thomas. I don't know if you knew this, but her grandmother was the visionary behind the whole concept of the Belle Isle Zoo, that worked in the Coleman Young administration and so much more. You can listen to my interview, and then also like HBO has a piece on it too. But But I do think that Megan's definitely been an advocate for a lot of the works in parks, and the parks have gotten better over time with more resourcing of the parks, and we're going to like I'm very interested in what will happen with the zoo site and how those nature walks and trails will look and be, and then also what other ways can Belle Isle engage a lot more of, I guess I would say, like engage even more so. But it's still one of the coolest things in the city of Detroit, period. And I think it's gonna always be that.
Yeah, I guess here's one way maybe to think about this. I'm looking through this lease agreement now because you know how me I like to read through all the documents. In 2012, when the DNR surveyed folks about the state of the park and what needed to change, they asked what are the amenities that people want to see. The top three places to buy food, drinking fountains, and restaurants. People said there were not enough of, and 11 years later, not really a lot of places to buy food. I mean, there's that kind of vary by Kids Row and the Giant Slide where there's some food trucks, but that's kind of it to my knowledge.
That's kind of always been it.
Right. Drinking fountain. Yeah. And that's already, it's not like that's new.
Yeah.
Drinking fountains. I don't know enough to really say where those are. I don't really know that I've encountered them outside of the
In most sheds, they're there.
Okay.
I would say from doing so many events on Belle Isle like in 2010 and everything, I do think that the team that ran Belle Isle before the state takeover was an amazing team as well. More resources were needed. Like this is always such the discussion, like under Black leadership, the lack of resources, and how do you equitably balance this out? Actually, one of one of the people that worked there was one of the rappers I work with, Royce Fan. Shout out Royce. But that Belle Isle team was extremely, I think, a very effective group, but just didn't have those resources to expand on things. Other things that Belle Isle sometimes has challenges with that I learned from those times. The people addressing I guess the unhoused population that sometimes utilizes Belle Isle, and then like what happens with like just the stewards of people. You know what I'm saying? You do a barbecue, what is your cleanup gonna be? You know what I'm saying? But heightening what that'll be, I do believe that with the state troopers, it's a different feel when we do events now there. But I think that that's just with the patrol cars. Like if you go to a shed in Belle Isle, usually they you get a couple people going, and maybe about 15, 20 minutes, people gonna pull up on you and say, "Hey, where's your permit and the rules and access to power?" But the fountains are usually in the sheds. I don't know if they're always on per se, but this goes back to, we as members in the community must steward the beauty of the place as well.
I'll just bring up that last one's restrooms, which we've written about before. Last summer, I went out and knocked on all the restroom doors trying to see which ones were open, and a lot of them, if not all of them, I think maybe one or two out of
We're
the
open.
13 or so were open.
Yeah.
The Belle Isle park staff said that 9 of them are currently open when they came and gave their update to City Council a couple of weeks back. So I have not been out there to do another bathroom audit, but that was the number three thing people said needed to change in terms of amenities. The high priority improvements were to reopen the aquarium, reopen the canals for canoeing and kayaking, and to reopen the boat club for public use. And I think they've done all 3 of those.
Yeah, all three of those. And the aquarium is one of the coolest things. I don't do the kayaking thing, but a lot of people do kayak. So
I'm out there kayaking. Yeah, I was kayaking in the Rouge River over the weekend, and
okay.
that was it's people talk about the Detroit River being dirty. Couldn't really see anything in the Rouge River, but it was still fun. I'm one of the kayakers, so be nice to me if you see me out there on the water.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So yeah, man. Like I say, this was more, as you said, this was a lighter version, but we're gonna have something real cool coming up soon on the national scope. We're gonna talk a little bit of Congress, Senate, and so much more around this Michigan area. But Detroit is different. Detroit is different. Make sure you tuned in. There's a couple cool things coming up here. Omari Barksdale interview. If people know him, Omari King Wise, the spoken word artist, also one of the original staff members from Mama Watson, the Honorable Joanne Watson's team when she first entered city council. We explored a lot of that story and so many other things. Also, Dre Sconey. I don't know if people know Dre Sconey, hell of a singer. With the Clouds, Rolling Stone was my song of the summer last year, and he also opens up about being on that first season of Making the Band. A little bit, it's interesting stuff with Detroit is Different, and the collard green cook-off. Y'all gonna get that at the end of this. Malachi, what's happening with Bridge?
BridgeDetroit.com, all the free news you could ever need. There's a lot of places you should read. A lot of different. There's a lot of great publications in Detroit. That's what I like being here. We have a very healthy news ecosystem, but I think we got some unique stories and some unique takes on things and perspective, and we are reader engagement driven. So reach out to me if you think it's corny that I'm out there on my kayak. Let me know. If there's things I should be covering, let me know. My email's open. It's out there online. Free newsletters every Wednesday about city council. That's what this whole show is built around, the council notebook. Hopefully digestible, quick information coming at you early in the morning on Wednesdays. And BridgeDetroit.com. We're your nonprofit local newsroom, man. Help us out.
All right. With that, watch a little bit about this collard green cook-off. Check this. Khary, Frazier, Detroit is Different with
Sharia Ayers of Juneteenth Jubilee Detroit and Black Leaders Detroit.
And guess what? We come in with more collards for the collard green cook-off again. The playoffs are taking place Saturday, June 15th, Joseph Walker Williams Center. You know where we at on Rosa Parks Boulevard, and you want to taste these collards. What else happening with Juneteenth?
Everything. So Friday, we have a partnership with Motown Museum for the kickoff. Saturday, we are celebrating life and liberation for life, because you cannot have liberation without healthy liberators. And then Sunday, we have our partnership with a number of organizations at the Eastern Market. So it'll be a full Juneteenth Freedom Weekend.
I know, but you want some cornbread. You want to be taking a shot of some pot liquor. And guess what? We also have Darius Twyman. He coming in with all types of inspiration and praise. But the number one thing, you want to see who cooked these the best. And also, we talk about growing them the best. Yes. Not just in our hand, they're going to get in your stomach. Come on out, the collard green cook-off layoff, June 15th, Saturday, June 15th. Be there, Joseph Walker Williams Center. Check the bottom, lower third for the times and all that stuff. But sign up today. Thanks.